Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. In one of our recent videos, Spaghetti Jester came up with a video idea and Dank Ferrick. Those were a lot of likes. So yeah, let's continue our State of the Galaxy, let's call it a series now, by taking a look at 22 BBY, the year that the Clone Wars started. We can start off in the heart of the galaxy, in the bustling Yoseminopolis of Coruscant. It is the nerve center of the Republic, and it's home to a wide variety of aliens from every corner of the galaxy. In many ways, Coruscant and its thousands of layers is like a microcosm of the wider galaxy. And since things were not going very well in the wider galaxy, things on Coruscant also started getting a bit sketchy. This is all a part of the Sith grand plan, of course. Darth Sidious, who now occupied the executive position of Supreme Chancellor, was just one Dark Lord in a long line of Dark Lords who have all been planning the downfall of the Republic and the Jedi for more than 1,000 years. It's actually ironic how selfless the Sith of the Rule of Two period are. They spend their entire lives building up resources and power that will one day all be stolen by their apprentice, who will also murder them. Darth Sidious, for instance, stabbed Darth Plagueis in his sleep, and in doing so he inherited one of the largest and most powerful lobbies in the entire galaxy. Equipped with almost unlimited credits, Palpatine, like the Sith before him, funded revolutionary bandits, nationalist reptiles, and predatory corporations. That made life hell for citizens all across the galaxy. He did it all secretly, of course. The evidence of that chaos might not reach the core on worlds like Coruscant, but a quick look at the changing demographics on the planet and the alarming increase of refugee arrivals on Coruscant paints a different picture. In 24 BBY, Count Dooku would re-emerge in the Outer Rim and give his famous Raxus Address, which criticized the corruption of the Republic and simultaneously declared the foundation of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Chaos would ensue. On Coruscant, the transit hub known as Westport experienced a massive 6,000% increase in departure traffic. This huge outflow really freaked out local officials, and it just shows us how effective Count Dooku's propaganda was. This was Coruscant, the core of the galaxy. This is where you had a lot of loyalty towards the Republic, yet you still had massive amounts of people leaving. At the same time, Eastport on Coruscant saw a similar increase in incoming refugee traffic from Outer Rim territories that have seceded from the Republic. Before we continue, a word from our sponsor for today's video, ownersaber.com. Now, a lot of you keep on accusing me of ransacking the Jedi Temple post-Order 66 and looting the bodies of fallen Jedi. I would never do such an unspeakable thing because it is completely unspeakable. I actually got this beautiful thing from ownersaber.com, and it was actually really simple. No getting abducted as a child by magical wizards, no forced pledges of celibacy, and of course, a special safety feature that prevents you from cutting off your own limbs in case you're terrible at using a lightsaber, like Din Djarin. Right now, ownersaber.com has three main categories of blades. First, you have the dueling blade. These blades are a lot lighter and more simple in build, which means they're better balanced, and they're really great for swinging around and hitting things with, because that's what they're designed for, sparring. Then there are the higher quality Profi board and Xenopixel lightsabers. These are going to be more expensive, more detailed, and also a lot heavier, especially in the blade, and that's because, as you can see, there are individual LEDs that run throughout the whole thing, so you can do all sorts of cool stuff, like that, and like that. From now until April 8th, every blade is 20% off. And plus, they'll give you a free display stand with your purchase. It won't show up in the checkout page, they'll just ship it directly with your blade. Also, use our promo code MEOW, that's all caps, for an additional 10% off. Thank you for your patience, back to the rest of the video. Palpatine would go on to also announce the Military Creation Act, which of course led to a lot of hysteria and fear of a general draft, even though the Republic would mainly just use clone armies and existing PDFs to fight the Separatists. Coruscant's already hectic spaceports became one of the first hotspots of the entire conflict. Fights would break out between various species. One particularly bad riot started when Hook and Weequay immigrants arrived at Eastport and began fighting. This led to 15 deaths and 45 wounded. Further risks of terrorism from Separatist sympathizers led to increased anti-terror laws and more security on all traffic coming and leaving Coruscant. Large-scale pro-peace and pro-separatist protests would also engulf the federal district. And finally, you had the multiple assassination attempts against Padme Amidala, a very vocal opponent of the Military Creation Act. The explosion that engulfed her fancy yacht marked the beginning of a very scary and dark period on Coruscant. Soon, the peaceful streets of the capital would be filled with the sounds of war. Massive columns of clone troopers would follow their Jedi leaders with their lightsabers raised high above their heads. The Inner Rim to the Mid-Rim is a major buffer zone between the Republic and the Separatist Alliance. After the Clone Wars began, the central government would try to fortify its power and influence in this region. This was a reaction to worlds like the given homeworld of Yagdul, which would join the Confederacy. You also had Inner Rim planets like Onderon, which peacefully joined the Confederacy independent systems as well. Given their close proximity to the core region, this really freaked out the Republic, and so they would try to disincentivize planets from leaving. In 21 BBY, the 4th Constitution Amendment gave Republic worlds in the colonies and Inner Rim more political power and voting rights when compared to the expansion and Mid-Rim areas. Some worlds like Naboo, which was in the Mid-Rim, would miss out on this increase in political power. Ultimately, this move would work. It would set boundaries for the upcoming Clone Wars, and the Republic would not see any massive secession in the Inner Rim territories. Most of the new Separatist worlds were much further away from the core. The Outer Rim's grievances were always quite numerous. The people perpetually felt left behind and abandoned by the Republic. Many worlds had been awaiting much-needed loans to help improve the infrastructure on their planets, or at a minimum, provide some safety and security. The other complaints come from large corporations who took advantage of the Outer Rim's free trade zone policies and basically turned the region into its own personal fiefdom. They would indenture the local population and force them to work in a modern form of slavery that was starting to occur on factory floors in this region. The corporations almost had complete control of goods flowing in and out of the Outer Rim as well, and would adopt price-fixing measures to pad their bottom line and at the same time debt-trap their employees. But of course, when Count Dooku makes his Raxus address in 24 BBY, he fails to mention the corporate powers who really control the Outer Rim and are responsible for many of the problems and also advances the region enjoys. The Republic's approach to the Outer Rim has always been very laissez-faire, or just straight up lazy. And Dooku did speak some truths. There was plenty of corruption in the core and favoritism for worlds closer to the center of the galaxy. His impassioned words were enough to start the Separatist crisis, which 2 years later would turn the galaxy upside down in a full-blown civil war. Lastly, we have our lovely Criminal Underworld. Like vultures, every one of these organizations, from the Hutts to the Black Suns to the Pike Syndicate, were carefully eyeing the situation developing in the Outer Rim territories. What they were looking for was a new potential stream of revenue. Certain criminal organizations like the Zygerian Empire saw a golden opportunity to work with a new separatist government. Up until now, the Republic had been shafting the Zygerians and not allowing them to practice their cultural tradition of enslaving other sentient beings and selling them for profit. With the growing chaos in the Outer Rim and increased demand for cheap labor by corporations, the Zygerians would step in and fill a role that had no place in the Galactic Republic. Other organizations like the Hutts had control over massive amounts of territory that bordered the Mid-Rim and Outer Rim territories. One of the first battles of the Clone Wars between the Republic and the Separatists was over access to Hutt space. The Republic saw Hutt space as a safe corridor which connected the Mid-Rim to the Outer Rim territories. Several Republic garrisons were stranded in the Outer Rim and surrounded by Separatist forces. Hutt space was one of the few routes that Republic forces could take to relieve them. Other organizations like the Pike Syndicate, whose portfolio was heavily weighed towards commodities, would suffer from the disruption to their spice mines and factories on occupied worlds like Ryloth. The Black Suns, who mainly dealt in security and weapons, would see the opposite happen as their services became more in demand as the galaxy became a more dangerous place. A few years into the war, many of these criminal organizations were flourishing, which eventually led to the creation of the Shadow Collective, one of the largest criminal coalitions ever created. Together, these criminals were able to take over the entire planet of Mandalore. So there you have it, guys. That is the state of the galaxy in 22 BBY. As you can see, it only took the Sith about 1,000 years to slowly manipulate the Outer Rim to the point where it just became chaos and war would follow. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy.